Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This is your host of My Spiritual Money RX, Vivian S. de Guzman, and I would like to welcome you to our show today. Well, today we have a very special guest to help you activate that money flow and really be in conscious alignment with you being a conscious leader. So, I would love to welcome this beautiful lady that I've met through one of the masterminds and summits that I've attended. Her name is Jennifer Spor, and she is a LinkedIn expert. She is a conscious leader, and she's just a good friend. And so I wanted to deliver her to you and welcome her warmly so that we can figure out what it means to be a conscious leader. Welcome, Jennifer.
Oh, thanks for the warm welcome, Vivian. I'm completely just overjoyed and honored to be here with you.
Thank you for gracing our show. And you can share with the audience a little bit more, and because I know you have so many credentials, so many talents. Some of us are kind of hidden at times, right? But you've served in corporate America for a while. So share with us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, actually, so prior to starting my business as a coach a couple of years ago, I worked in the retail industry for over 23 years. And for the last 10 or so years of my career, I was in corporate. So I have an extensive professional background. One of my last positions was as a director of store operations, where I was responsible for about 1,200 stores. Wow. So I have a unique background in that I'm highly intuitive, but I also have a very sort of practical, strategic background as well, which actually that professional experience has served me well in terms of the results that I've been able to help my clients achieve.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So you have this wonderful array of experiences, and tell us what it feels like handling 1,200 stores.
Well, I loved that job for so long, and it's because I was able to live a part of my purpose during that time of my life, helping and mentoring other people, right? And I was very passionate about improving life, quality of life, day-to-day work for the stores. And so I loved that job for a long time.
Thank you. Yes. So tell us this terminology, conscious leader. So I know you're very active on LinkedIn, and you contribute there on a regular, consistent basis. What made you bring up this concept of conscious leadership?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about conscious leadership, especially with, the current climate, the great awakening that we're experiencing, the shift in consciousness that's happening, it's now become vital, not a nice to have in terms of everyone aligning with that greater path, right? Aligning with their purpose. And to me, conscious leadership comes from a place of self-awareness and leading from a place of mission, vision, and purpose, truly leading by example. And in particular, I am very active on the LinkedIn platform. I'm very passionate about serving others in bridging that gap that exists, in the landscape of the professional world today, in terms of the fact that our spirituality isn't separate from our work. It's central to it. It's central to everything that we do and who we are.
Definitely. And that's why I love your work. And that's how we connected and became affiliated this way, is because the similarities, right? Like the person has to have that purpose, and they're moving towards, like you said, the extension of that is their company, their vision, and their mission. And they themselves are the walking example of whatever it is that they're teaching.
Absolutely.
Because that is conscious leadership, right? So if we are unconscious, so give us symptoms of unconscious leaders. So I know we, usually there's like a terminology, almost like the flavor of the month. However, this is not the flavor of the month anymore. So how does unconscious leadership look like?
Yeah, so a lack of empathy, a lack of leading by example, right? So telling someone to do something when they're not actually, walking the talk themselves, putting themselves first and foremost above the team that they're leading, having more of an I mentality, and also confusing leadership with managing people.
Wow. Wow, those are big. So enlighten our viewers. Leadership versus management.
Yeah. Managing people versus leading people, when you're managing people, you're managing more of the tasks, the functions, right? Ensuring certain things get done. When you're leading people, it goes way beyond the management of basic functions and things that need to get done, right? You are actually mentoring people, developing them, developing their strengths, creating inspiration within them. And I say creating inspiration within them because there's a difference, I think, between motivation and inspiration. Motivation comes from the external and inspiration comes from within. And I believe that when you have people that are inspired, they're much more productive, much more motivated, and happier overall.
Yeah, definitely. And all of this obviously has a lot of balancing act, right? Because even a leader, the strength, all of us have strengths and weaknesses, and being able to balance things out, strong qualities versus weak qualities, kind of like the yin and the yang. And everything has its place. And therefore, it's very interesting because conscious leadership takes us to a whole new level. Like you said, it's almost like you feel the spirit of the leader before they even show up. Like people get excited. Like whatever the tone of the leader is, that becomes the culture or the tone of the company. Do you notice that with those conscious leaders?
Absolutely. They have a
bring up life.
Absolutely. They have an unmistakable presence.
Yes. Thank you for that. So you mentioned something about you're practically intuitive. So this approach that you've taken, how is this received by a lot of the CEOs and the executive leaders? Because you know how traditional corporate or old corporate is pretty masculine, right? And now that we're introducing the divine feminine concept into the workplace, how has that landscape changed in your experience? Because as you move from corporate to now business coaching, what is this practically intuitive approach?
Yeah, so it's really more of a holistic approach to helping the executives and entrepreneurs that I work with to attain their goals. A lot of people are waking up, right? Or maybe they already have been. They're experiencing a significant shift in consciousness, so they're realizing that very masculine, heavy, for lack of a better way to put it,
Like, you gotta do it this way or no other way, right?
Right. It doesn't work anymore. And based upon, what we're moving through and healing from now, how well did it really work, right? So a lot of leaders are waking up to that and realizing that the answer to running successful businesses and evolving in a sustainable way of living and leading is by learning how to lead from within, learning how to tap into that inner wisdom, and then having the ability to take that wisdom and to integrate it right into the physical. So when you mention a practically intuitive approach, that's really what I do with clients. Is I actually teach them how to develop their intuitive abilities, and then how to align that inner wisdom and their vision along with the goals, time, actions, and mindset.
So,
and that helps them. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see you.
no, that's okay. That's okay. So you notice this actually apply to people in the corporate world, like this practical intuitive approach. Are they able to bridge that gap, even if they are in a container? Let's say their company is still mostly masculine, let's say, right?
Yeah.
There's like deadlines, because that's the side of the masculine. There has to be a goal, which is a dream with a deadline. I tell that to my clients, right? A goal is a dream with a deadline. And there are to-do lists that relate to that. However, like you said, when we introduce the divine feminine approach, so there's a balance. It's kind of like in a household. There's the husband and a wife. This is the structure, and we all want the same goal, except there are different ways of getting there, right? It could be a softer approach at times. It could be more direct. It could be a combination of those depending on the day, the phase of the project, right? Does it apply to corporate? Like, have you seen this approach work right now in this climate in corporate America?
With the clients I work with, yes, absolutely. This is something that where there's more awareness, there's definitely still a huge opportunity for change, right? But it's really about reaching that place, is really about working with them to be more intentional in what they're doing in terms of setting goals and taking aligned actions, which involve, not just making sure the actions on paper are aligned with the goals, but that all of their team members are aligned in what they're doing as well, if that makes sense.
I would bring that into like the basic business coaching that I'm doing with some energy work, right?
Yeah, very similar.
Approach, because for example, there's a big project. So I have this Up Level 2020 coming up on Friday. Of course, there's to-do list, right? Marketing, inviting people, making sure the handouts are there, the place is prepared. So those are the masculine to-do list. However, when I wake up in the morning, and if I feel great, good, I'm ready to go. But I would still start my day with a meditation or a nature walk. In fact, I went to the beach just now before the TV show just to be with nature. I'm connecting more with the beach lately. So I did that, right? So I did my feminine side of just being, and then going back to what I needed to do today, right? And other projects related to Uplevel 2020. So now I have more energy to do those tasks because I have taken care of myself, of me,
Absolutely. I'm
right?
glad. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you touched on that.
Yeah.
That is absolutely what happens when I first, start working with clients. A very common problem is that they're overwhelmed. Right? They have a desire to instill a culture change in their organization or step out as an entrepreneur, right? Really, they're just mission driven and they want to get their message out in the world in a bigger way, but they're feeling overwhelmed. And one of those common problems is that they have a lot on their plate and they're not taking that time for themselves. So as you elaborated on, creating that space for yourself it's a must have.
It is. And I even said space equals God. I think of it that way, right? So as our money container gets bigger, as we make six figures, seven, eight plus figures and above, what happens, people think that when they make more money, they're going to be busier. I think that's the biggest fear. That's why they don't want to make more money. However, if you actually find your own balance, like you said, this practically intuitive sense of guidance within you, that you have your masculine side, because we can't get rid of that, right? We, as a human, have a male and a female side. That balance is so critical. So you have your to-do list. However, you also have your female nurturing, allowing side, and the space that you create. Even husband and wife, if you don't have any space between the two of you, you mesh and merge so much you don't even know who the other one is or who you are.
Yes.
Sometimes, right? You lose yourself in the process. So I encourage people to have space. It's a good thing, right?
Yeah, a to-do list and a to-be list.
Yes, that's a good one. To-do list and to-be list. I love that.
Yes.
I love those little nuggets. So now I'm going to do that. To-do list and to-be list. I love it. And we have to schedule it, right? Just like your to-do list, you got to schedule your to-be list. Like my beach thing, that was scheduled. And even if I was running 30 minutes behind on the beach, I'm like, I'm going to do it because I promised myself. That's part of the integrity, right? When you value integrity, that includes you. You are included in integrity. So when you say, I'm going to take care of me, you better do that on your schedule.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought up the scheduling and the time blocking. That's also a really important component. It doesn't sound very sexy or glamorous, but effective time management, is it's really important. There are only so many hours in the day, and that's also a common challenge as well with high-level leaders is that they already have a lot on their plate. So it's so vitally important to be able to assert your boundaries and to block and schedule your time and to prioritize as well.
Yeah. And I know when I was working in corporate America, I was a physical therapist. So I was actually in the healthcare field. And unfortunately, even healthcare professionals, you think they treat patients, that they take care of themselves? Only a conscious leader would. Because sometimes we don't really take time to take care of us unless our bodies break down. So what you're saying is, as a conscious leader, we have to lead our own lives responsibly, right?
Yes, self-awareness and self-leadership. It starts with us. All roads lead back to how we feel about and treat ourselves. Absolutely.
Yes. And I realized this concept of, well, who told me to work late at night?
Yeah.
Who told me to not take a break? Me. Who told me, because the pressure of the work was greater than the self-care, right? Who told me not to eat lunch at the designated time, right? So corporations already gave us designated time slots, right, for the things we do. That's just part of discipline. because I went from super disciplined to no discipline. And then I have to swing back to, oh, yeah, it would be good to put my own boundaries, right? Put my own structures in my business. So that's how you create your own life, even as a business owner, to really have this ease, grace, and flow type of life. That was like eye-opening for me, right? I had to swing from one
Yes.
end to the other. And finally, I found my balance. Took
Yeah,
a
I
while.
mean, yes, as a high level leader, and I would say even more so as a business owner, the importance of discipline is
It's important.
it's everything. It really is.
Yes, exactly. So share us, Jen, what inspired you to do this work, this conscious leadership, practical, intuitive approach?
Yeah. So, really, what inspired me to do this work is that I was once in that corporate career, right? And
Mhm.
despite having loved my job for a long time, I reached a point where I had checked all those boxes off the list. Had,
You're
the
disciplined.
right, had the six-figure salary, the job title, ran out of promotions, had accomplished all of the things I had set out to do, but realized that I still wasn't happy, right? And so that really started my own journey of an awakening to align
Mhm.
to fully to my purpose.
Yeah.
And so it was during that journey of transition that I realized that I needed to, that my purpose was really to help others who are experiencing that same journey, because there are so many amazing people, leaders out there right now that are in careers or have reached a point of stagnation and unfulfillment with what they're doing. But when they think about, how do I get my message out into the world in a bigger way, or how do I make these changes for myself, they get overwhelmed and then they don't take action because they already have a full plate. And so it was through my own experiences realizing that there was really a need for this kind of work to help other people fully align with their path.
Definitely. So now that obviously it seems like your mess was your message. That was that, right? So the
Yes.
the difficulties we experience in life, because some people say, oh, that's so negative, I don't want to deal with that. Now, obviously, if you've been doing that for 10, 20, 30 years, you probably not listening to the universe. So for her, the difficulty in the transition was the awakening. And then she realized as she aligned with her purpose, because I tell my clients, you don't look for your purpose. You actually,
Right.
your purpose finds you when you're ready.
Right. It's a journey.
It
Yes.
is a journey. Yes, yes. And even if we use like human design, we use like scientific hand analysis, astrology. We use all those tools, right? Even Chaldean numerology. When we are, like let's say I have a client and they're like, I really don't know what to do. So then you give them a tool of some sort to help them figure out, oh, yeah, that is the purpose. That's what I meant to do. Because when they look at their life, whatever's on paper is not always like you. So then
Yeah.
you go, oh, no, my life doesn't look like that, because some of them my clients would get like, you're going to be an expert teacher. And then they're like, what? I don't even want to talk. I don't want to speak. So they'll see the discrepancy, right, where they are to where they need to be able to be happy achieving that sole purpose, right? Almost like you're an instrument of God at this time, just sharing your light and gifts and talents with the universe. That's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Purpose. Yes.
Absolutely. And many people already have an idea of what
Yeah.
that thing is, right? They just question whether or not it's possible. And that's where the component around intuitive development is so important. Really working with people to help them gain a whole new level of confidence, right, in that guidance they're receiving and taking action on it. Because so many people have been conditioned to believe that life has to be lived in this cookie cutter way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and for those people that have that spiritual awakening within them, that doesn't feel good, just to let you know. Like if, I mean, think about yourself. Let me put you in a box, Jennifer, right? Let me just put you in there and I'll seal it with a tape and let's see how you breathe, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't feel good. Like
No.
that, this is where you're going to eat. This is where you're going to sleep. This is where you're going to do everything you need to do in this little box. Are you good with that?
Yeah, no.
But that's the contract. And I want to share with the viewers that intuition is a very natural thing. Okay.
Yes.
So I will just give them a, let me see, like a point in their head, right? So if everybody touched their right forehead and about a centimeter off of that, if you just start to feel with your fingers, just move that energy and just feel how yours feel like versus your left side. So imagine two smiley faces on your forehead, but it's sitting about an inch or a centimeter away from the forehead, very small, right? So you're just moving that and feel if it's dense or heavy, or is it light and flowing? So you're moving it away from each other. If you are denser, let's say on the right side of your brain is emotional. That's your emotional brain. So that means you tend to use your emotion for a lot of things versus logical. That means you think a lot. You analyze, you probably deal with numbers all the time and everything has to fit right because, numbers don't change, right? It's pretty constant. However, if you think of these two smiley faces bumping onto each other, the intuition in the middle cannot function well because it's too, some of you have overdeveloped emotion or overdeveloped left brain, logical brain. And when you find the balance between the two, this third eye or intuition can finally get messages, those downloads, intuitive guidance that you're talking about. Finally, like I'm explaining it mechanically to the viewers,
Yeah.
so that they know exactly like what intuition are they talking about. Because even the word self-care, the few clients that I've had when I first signed them up, they heard it. They don't even know what that means, okay? The word self-care. What are you talking about? My schedule is full. I don't have time for that self-care. And I'm like, we all have 24 hours. I wonder why they don't know. But sometimes they don't know what the definition is, or maybe they were raised differently, right? That was
Yes.
an important priority, that you had to like earn a lot of money, make money, work hard to get ahead. So we're dispelling all those myths because you decide what kind of life you like. Meaning the first few years of your life may have looked like that. It doesn't have to keep on looking like that because that's what we're giving our children. That's the example we're giving them.
Absolutely. I mean, in order to experience change, not to sound cliche, but we have to be the change, right? We have to bring that into our physical plane, into our reality. And what you said is so key about the story, right? The way that we're conditioned or raised to think that we have to put ourselves last. All we have to do is change the story.
Yeah, exactly. It is true. And one of there was one time I was attending because October is breast cancer awareness month, right? And I was attending a race with my brother-in-law, and there was this T-shirt, in the back, something about like care about, and then there were like different labels, like father, mother, cousin, brother, sister, and then the last part was you. And I said, there's something wrong with the T-shirt. I said, they should have put you on top first because you cannot serve when you have an empty tank. That, from personal experience, you can have the passion to serve, but then you're empty, like your gas tank is on empty. It's impossible to do your 100% and offer that to the people you're serving if you're empty. So that's the practical, intuitive, divine feminine side, is let's fill up first every morning. Let's take care of us. And then we can actually help with the overflow. So then you don't have to look like I in the boardroom, right? In corporate world, because you already took care of you. So you can actually be ready to serve others at that point.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you even look at that from a logical standpoint, it makes complete sense, because there's a verse actually from the Bible, and I don't know what exactly the verse is. I don't remember, but it just speaks to, are you operating on a foundation of rocks or sand? Right?
Mm,
You have to establish that solid foundation
yeah,
to operate from. So if you're not operating from a foundation of rocks,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
and you're bound to, shut down or collapse at some point, because you're not operating on stable ground.
Wow. No, that's very, very important. There was also, I read something about that, about the professor that was um, teaching his students on how there was like a glass pitcher, and he said, okay, now put some rocks, and then put some pebbles, and then put some sand, and then put some coffee, right? Or water.
Yeah.
And obviously, what do those rocks represent? Like, what is your foundation? That's usually the values, personally, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That holds true in corporate. What is the vision when you're setting up a business or your corporation? What is the vision and the mission that you have? Can you touch on that for us, please? On those rocks versus pebbles. Like, where do people get mixed up?
Yeah, so the rocks really represent the foundation, right? And it's a great analogy for time management as well. The rocks really represent, what's non-negotiable, whether it's determining what's non-negotiable for you as an individual in terms of your self-care, your well-being, or determining what's non-negotiable, what are the rocks for you, for your business or for your organization. Those are, it's the vision, it's the principles with which you operate from, and then everything else comes after that from a time standpoint, right? So that's really how it works.
Wow, definitely. So I know for me, the values, like I have to love what I'm doing.
Yep.
If I don't love it, I'm sorry, but there's no heart in that for me, right? And integrity is another, and freedom, like the freedom of choice. That for me personally is important. And a lot of our personal values actually transfer into our business values. So for us, it's integrity, it's growth and prosperity, abundance, like money. Money is part of our dream team. So that is actually part of our values. And for those of you who have triggers on money, you probably don't think so. Unfortunately, you can't do philanthropy work and you can't do any kind of helping others outside of your organization if you don't have that excess, right? And communication, that's important for us too. So there are certain values and principles we operate from in Transformational Wellness International, or TWI. So that's where we come from. And so, like you said, everyone, because I think we plan our Thanksgiving party, but we don't plan our life. Sometimes
Right?
we don't, we're not clear. Like, what are we supposed
So
to do
true.
with this life? Oh, let's just see how God helps me. Yes, that's good. Always. At the same time, there's a ship we're directing.
Absolutely. One thing I'd love to mention on this
Mhm.
note as well is adaptability. I think that's something that has really come to the forefront this year for a lot of people, with all of the changes and events that have and that are taking place. So it's important to have a clear vision and to establish a firm foundation for yourself, your business, and your life, but be open to embracing change and have the willingness to switch out the rocks every so often.
Switch out the rocks. I like that.
Yeah,
Maybe the pebbles. Those are the next ones, right? Because the
those
value,
too. Yes.
yes, yes. Because our values non-negotiable, or are they changing? Do they change, or does that depend on the climate?
That's a fantastic question. I believe that they can change
Uh-huh.
based upon
True.
your shift in consciousness, as you're
Mm,
evolving, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
also believe that about our mission and purpose as well, that it's a living, breathing, it's like a living, breathing consciousness of its own, right? So as we evolve, um, I really think some of those things are going to change.
Okay, thank you. Wow. We can talk all day, Jennifer.
I know, I love speaking with you.
I just love because there's different concepts, right? And the thing is, I've realized because I was recording this basic business foundation for my clients, and there's so many parts in being a business owner. Just think about it. When you were at work in corporate, you're not the only one working. You have a marketing department, production, management. There's a finance department. I'm sure there's the charity, the philanthropy side, right? There's so many departments. However, when people go into business, they think, I could do this by myself. Think again.
Yes. Yes, I
I could
certainly
be
learned
a
some of those.
superwoman
Yeah.
with a cape and a
Yes.
gadget.
Yes, there were certainly some potholes that I fell down into in the beginning.
So that's the just think about that, right? Like, okay, when you decided to have a family, I'll do this by myself. I don't need a husband. I don't need anybody. So why do women have this superpower, superwoman syndrome? I think it's a syndrome. Like, I can do it all. You guys can't do it right. I'm doing it right. So that's a perfectionism on our side. I think majority of us have that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's conditioning, right? I think it's environmental conditioning.
Uh-huh.
Some of it's ancestral.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
but, once we have an awareness, right, that something's out of alignment for us, it then becomes our personal responsibility to make that change, because no one is going to swoop in and
Yeah,
change it for us, right? We have to step into our power.
yeah. We cannot be a damsel in distress because that's a little bit of the victim part in us.
Right.
Instead of saying, you know what, I do need help, and you
Right.
can ask for it. You can delegate. Actually, that's the a sign of a conscious leader is they know exactly what their strengths and weaknesses are, and they're willing to delegate the things that they're not so good at because somebody else is better than them. And to me, that was even an aha moment. It's a little bit of what we call the control issue we have. So control issues, everybody out there, is usually in your neck and shoulder area and a little bit on your upper arm. Okay, so control issues, your body tells you, hey, you got some control issues going on. What's up with that? Because you're doing too much.
It's so true. Our body, everything is connected, and our body is a fantastic indicator of, when something is off, but also when things feel aligned as well.
Our pain gets better when we are aligned, right? We just feel better, like overall, like you said,
Exactly. Yeah.
we're happier, we feel lighter, somehow our head no longer hurts, and even those diseases, they start to get better. Our numbers get better. If you have cholesterol or if you have high blood pressure, things get better. That's what happens. It's like, you mean to say that that's causing that? And sometimes people don't connect the dots. So I think the coaches are there to help them, and the healers are there to help them connect those dots. Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, we all have blind spots. You know,
Yeah.
no matter where we are in life, we're eternal students. There's always a new invitation to mastery, and
Yeah.
having that support to move forward with us on our path is invaluable.
Good, good. Okay. So, Jennifer, is it okay that we bring in the audience? Because I think we have a few viewers that would like to comment or ask questions. So let's bring those comments up.
Sure.
All right. Shifra says she believes in self-care, and she asked her body, what do you require today? Wow, thank you, Shifra, for sharing. And that's how I'm guided in my to-be list. Yep, very good. Yeah, because the body needs something too. It needs something every day. That's kind of like you know how your car sometimes needs cleaning and sometimes it needs gas, right? Sometimes it needs to not drive too much. Or sometimes it does need to drive. Right, right. Cool. Okay, any other questions? Oh, her right side is denser. Okay. Is that a question, Shifra? Like, what does that mean? Like, what do you, I'll share with you my insight on that, but let me ask Jennifer, do you notice, like, from your clients that you're coaching, what happens? Like, do you notice a pattern if their right side is denser compared to their left side?
Yeah, so when I first start working with my clients, many of them are stuck in their head. So definitely denser on the logic side of things, for sure.
Ah, that makes sense because the left side of the brain is logic, which supplies the right side of the body. Definitely. On the metaphysical side, that means that's your masculine side, which means you have a lot of to-do list and you tend to be busy and you tend to execute. You know, you feel like you can't sleep well or rest until you're done with a project. I'm guilty of that. Like, it's gotta be done. It's kind of like they have it's like, to me, it's like a loop. If I open a loop, you know how when you're investigating and perhaps you have so many caves to go through, I want to make sure, you know, I turn all the stones and I investigated that whole cave all the way till the end, and then I'm back. You know, I close that loop. So that's how I live my day. So if I have a lot of to-do lists, so I've learned not to put 8 to-do lists per day. I've learned to minimize that to 2 to 3 important things I really have to accomplish for the day, and then I'm done for the day because tomorrow there's another day. Like, I've learned to just pace myself, right? Because I have that superwoman syndrome. I just did. I still do.
Well, yeah, prioritizing is key, right? It's never all done. So it's important to not just have a clear vision, but to set ourselves up for success.
Yes, long term.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly. Okay. No, just an awareness when you did that exercise. Oh, okay. So when we did this exercise to see the difference between the right and the left. Okay, got it. Thank you, Shifra, for that. Awesome. Anything you want to share with us so far? I know you have a summit coming up, right, Jen?
I do have a summit. Thanks for mentioning that. I'm really excited. And I'm really excited to have you as one of the expert speakers as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, the summit is called Consciously Living and Leading on Purpose. It starts on November 9th, and we're going to begin sharing details about the summit and an opportunity to sign up for the free summit beginning this Saturday. So if anyone listening is interested in signing up for that, you can reach out to Vivian or myself for more information to sign up.
Awesome. And do you have the link already ready for that? Or, oh, here it is. So to connect with you, they have to go to jenniferspor.com, right? And then I know I'm going to send that through email and through social media. I think we have another question here from our audience. So let's bring that up. From Amy Fahim. She asked, what are some steps we can take to make the switch from employee to entrepreneur? Like knowing you've been there just recently, 2 years ago. So is there like the number of steps you've taken, not just from the mindset standpoint, but perhaps like practical steps? Like how did you move from employee to entrepreneur?
Yeah. So establishing, really the first step is just getting clear on what your non-negotiables are, right? What are your values? What's more important to you? And using that as a framework to determine how you want to move forward, how you want to transition. And that will really serve as the basis for beginning to take action steps. So often when a lot of people think about making a transition like that, they feel overwhelmed and they end up doing nothing because they get it's that whole analysis by paralysis. So really just getting a clear idea of how you want to move forward and listing out some action steps you can take, and then just committing to yourself, making a promise to yourself that you're going to take, let's say, even one small action daily, because it's really more about the journey and it's really more about commitment to your dream and consistent action.
That's beautiful. And that's so true from, I was speaking to one of my Gold VIP clients this morning, right? And when people look at me, they just see right now, it's like, oh, she's successful, she's making the money, everybody loves her, she's attracting these clients, these ideal clients, but they don't see all the behind the scenes that happened, all the failures that I've had prior to this moment. They just see the shining light and they're like, I want to be that. That's all they see, right? And I remember from employee to entrepreneur, there were several, before we even get to the decision, it's like when you get married. Yes, you decide the date and who you're going to marry, but you still have to decide, okay, what church am I going to go to? Where am I going to buy my wedding dress? When am I going to send out the invitation? The location, right? And the reception, how many guests are we going to invite? You see the planning. Am I going to hire a photographer, videographer? Like what's going to happen on before the actual event? So people see us as like, they made it. No, we're in a journey. We're always doing something towards the vision and the purpose, because that was the guiding light, right? That's the compass for me. That's the what do you call that big light? It is a light. Like that's the light that shines that I just follow. If we don't have the vision, there's nothing to follow. It's like a day-to-day grind. I got to do this. And the mindset of what is work. I can tell you, if you're an employee, you will only make so much money because the market dictates, your employer would dictate
Right.
how they're going to pay you. That is your per hour rate, no matter how many PhD, master's degree, and any other skill or knowledge you have. That's the maximum that you can get based on the budget. A business owner has a lot more potential. So it's either you say, I'm deciding that I'm going to chase my own dream and I'm going to be my own boss, or if you like consistency and you just want somebody to tell you because maybe you operate that way, like having that clarity, like I don't want the extra headache of all those departments she's talking about. That's fine. At least you know, right? You are clear. That's what Jennifer was saying. But if you are not clear, because a lot of people straddle, I see that. I'm an employee, but I have a side business. Let me do this first. So it's like riding two boats. And then what happens is when the other boat takes off, then, can you realize that your other foot is like spreading apart so far and so forward, and your other foot is still behind. That's difficult for your body. So then that's why you feel split and you can't focus and be whole and integrated. So I think what Jennifer is really talking about is this conscious leadership of, well, how do you operate in your life? Because what you do in one thing, I'm telling you personally, in business, you're doing the same thing. You are going to just extend yourself in a different department. That's it. It's a different circle. It's a bigger circle for you.
I love what you said about. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a bit of a. I love what you said about that. Something else that I also think is important is because, especially if someone is taking the approach of, you know, starting their business on the side, right, but still hanging on to that job,
right?
There needs to be a promise to yourself of what is that date, right? You know, make that part of your vision. Is it 2 years, 5 years, a year? You know, whatever that is, make a promise to yourself that that's when you're going to release, you know, the golden handcuffs, right? Because a lot of people do have that fear of completely letting go, right? So they end up holding on longer than they needed to. I know that I held on to my job for longer than I needed to as well. So it's important to just make a decision on a date, set the intention, and follow through.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Jennifer, for gracing our show. This, like I said, we can talk all day, but we got to wrap up. So we want to thank you for just enlightening us on what conscious leadership is. And I'm sure some of you that are employees wanting to transition to entrepreneurship, it is that. If when you create the decision to be an entrepreneur and there's no plan B or an escape hatch, right? Like you're really going to do this no matter what, because guess what? You learn a lot along the way. And it is the best self-development tool that is available in the planet at this time. That's really what I can tell
agree.
And the good thing is, if you're spiritual and you want to add that in, your intuitive guidance, hey, the faster you can actually get there because it is aligned with source. And that's your birthright, to actually be a representative of God is what we call it, right? Not just personally, but in your business as well. So thank you everyone for being here today. And for those of you that would like to connect with my tribe, I have a Facebook group called Wealthy Money Mindset. And I want you to join in so that we can give you practical tools on these money magnet activations and other beautiful, wonderful things, like we're going to do gratitude relay for November, and that'll be exciting and fun. And upcoming this Friday is uplevel2020.com. You can register there, and we will do some 6 to 7 figure quantum activations. It's a spiritual business healing event, and I will see you all there. All right. Thank you, and see you again next Wednesday for another episode of My Spiritual Money RX. Bye for now.